Welcome to another exciting learning lab, everyone. I'm super pumped for this one. We're going to be talking about text analysis. We're going to be talking about doing customer survey data, and I'll talk more about this as a special type of customer survey data that we're going to be talking about here in a minute. And this is part of our natural language processing series. So how did we get here? A couple of weeks ago, we did a learning lab that was all in R on natural language processing. It was amazing. We built a shiny web app that did tokenization for us and actually compared resumes to job descriptions. So that was really cool. It was a really neat learning lab. Today we've got something even more special. So we're going to crank it up a notch now. So we're moving into Python. It's still an introductory lesson. So if you're a 1, that's perfectly okay. And if you're a 10, you're still going to learn something. We're going to be focusing on 2 primary packages today. Pycaret, which has an NLP module, and then also this thing called Gensim, and that's for topic modeling. So if you guys are tuning in, how many of you have heard of Pycaret? Just put yes in the chat if you've heard of Pycaret. All right. Seeing lots of yeses. Okay, so seeing some no's, which is perfectly okay. We're going to talk about what Pycaret is here in a little bit. I would say predominantly yeses though so far, which is good. Okay. Next question. How many people have heard of Gensim? Put that in the chat. Okay, no. All right, I'm seeing a lot more no's. All right. So before I put this lesson together, I did not know, I've never heard of Gensim before, but it's pretty cool. It's really nice for tokenization. We'll talk more about what that means and how to actually implement it, but you're going to be learning a lot. So no matter if you're an expert or a total novice, no worries. You're going to be learning a lot here. We're all going to be learning together. A lot of people haven't heard of Gensim, so that's going to be learning for them. And even a lot of people haven't heard of Pycaret, so we're going to be talking about that. Let's get this thing kick-started. So agenda for today, we're going to be talking about several key, we'll kind of break this up into six different sections today. We're going to talk about why listen to me. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background about who I am, where I came from. I think that's really important, especially if you're new to me. And then from there, we're going to quickly move into the business problem. We're going to be talking about customer survey data today, which is where you ask, you run a survey on your customers, they provide responses in the form of text, and we're going to talk about how we're going to analyze that today. So third section, we're going to move on to the why NLP, what tools are we going to be using? Then we're going to move on to the how. So this is a full 200-line code lesson today. And you guys are getting this, you're getting it for free. So definitely get your notepads out, take lots of pictures, record your video screen if you have to, but if you want to absorb this, then take it all in, because we're going to go through the real way to do some NLP. Section 5, then we're going to move into the big reveal. So this is part of Learning Labs, and I run a product called Learning Labs Pro, and I have a whole event plan for 2022, and it's all based on the survey that we're going to be doing today. So I'm going to show you how I analyzed it, and I'm going to give you the big reveal so you see what our timeline of events is going to be throughout the rest of the year. And if you stick around till the end for your investment and your time today, you're going to get a free gift, and it's really exciting. So let's talk about that free gift. What are you guys going to get? Today, we're talking Python. So you are going to get the ultimate Python cheat sheet. And what this does is it consolidates the ecosystem of 10,000 plus Python packages into the best 100 or so. And what it really does is it saves you a lot of time. So if you're new to Python, or even if you're advanced in Python, it's going to kind of hone you in on which packages to use for different applications like finance, time series, deployment, big data, machine learning, and more. And if the key here is if you want to break into these fields, these are the packages that you should focus in on. So you will get that at the end of the presentation. Do me a favor, once we get to the end of the presentation, remind me and I will give it to everyone. All right. So let's get this thing kickstarted. A little bit about me. So if you're new, you've never heard of me, it would be a disservice for me to continue this chat without introducing myself properly. So I am, and I know this is a Python presentation, and I'm going to be talking about R, and you're going to be like, what? Why is it talking about R? Well, it's because my background's in R. So I was an early adopter. This was back 2013, 2014, 2015 timeframe when I really started to learn this new thing called data science. Back then, it was just called statistics, and I was an early adopter. I was lucky, right? So why did I start learning it? Well, I was working for a company called Bonnie Forge. And what they did was they manufactured industrial products. So you can see their website right here. I was just a small piece of that company. I was managing a small team of mechanical engineers. In fact, it was 4 people. When I went on vacation, though, at one point in time, my career totally changed. My boss quit while I was on vacation, and I got thrown when I came back. They said they wanted to meet with me, and they had told me that, hey, you're getting put into charge of a new team now. Not only are you going to manage your 4 mechanical engineers, but you're now going to manage this new technical sales group. And I did not know technical sales. So it was nerve-wracking and exciting at the same time. So fast forward, in that specific role, I was put in charge of doing a weekly sales report that went to my CEO, and my tool of choice at that point in time, this was back, 2013, 2014 timeframe, was Excel. How many of you guys are using Excel right now to do most of your data analysis? Put that in the chat right now. Yes. Okay. No, mostly. Yes, yes, yes. Sometimes, fair bit. Okay. Seeing lots of yeses. All right. So you're like me back then. I was using Excel. I mean, I was a master. I had this awesome Excel dashboard. I had slicers, pivot tables. It refreshed automatically from the SQL database that I had connected it to. And it was amazing. It worked until it didn't. So get this, follow me. All right, just before I get on one of my weekly sales calls with my CEO, this happens. Have you guys ever seen this? If you're working in Excel, have you seen this before? All right, I'm seeing some yeses, some laugh out louds. All right, this is called the blue screen of death. It's also abbreviated BSOD, blue screen of death. And this is what happens when your computer shuts down because Excel, and what I was doing with it was I was putting in too much data. So Excel has a limit of around 1 million rows. In fact, it's actually 1,048,000 or so rows. And you can actually scroll to the bottom of Excel, and eventually it will stop at 1,048,000 rows. So I was trying to pull in more data than that. And this is what happens to your computer when you do that. Do me a favor, do not try it right now, because your computer, this communication that we're having right now through Zoom, it will quit. So don't do it right now, but test it. I encourage you to try it out later. It will happen. All right. So on that call, it was super embarrassing. I was giving my sales report to the C-suite, the VPs, the CEO, and on that call, I had to apologize to everybody because it was, my turn to talk. I was supposed to be able to kind of help them plan what we were going to be doing for the entire year, and all of my information, which was critical to that presentation, was not available. So, very embarrassing. I honestly thought I was going to lose my job at one point, and I knew I had to figure out a solution. So this kept happening over the next couple of weeks. My Excel dashboard with the slicers and pivot tables and everything, it was basically worthless at this point. So I made a choice. I took matters into my own hands, and I decided to transition to a new type of software. I went from Excel to this new language that I was just hearing about called R. One of my coworkers recommended it to me. And I found out that it was super helpful. In fact, I put all of my time into it to try and get everything that I was doing over to R as much as possible. So follow me with this. Here's my step-by-step process. Step 1, here's what I did. I fixed my weekly sales report. That seems pretty obvious probably, but that's what I did. Step 2, I recognized that there were other issues going on in my company as I was growing with this technical sales group, and I was figuring out what they were doing. I found out that basically we were having issues with decision making. We were trying to, just kind of willy-nilly do what's called quotations. It's when a customer comes into us with an inquiry and says they want our products to purchase, and then we would just kind of like and it would be a massive list. It would take a lot of time and effort and energy to put these quotations together and submit that quote to the customer. And then we would lose a lot of them. So we were pretty much kind of all over the place. In fact, some of the quotes, we had so many of these that some of them were just sitting and we weren't even able to quote them. So we were missing out on a lot of leads too. So I found out that R could help me predict, and it could help us predict which quotes we would actually win. So I ended up putting in place a system to collect that information and help analyze the data based on key features and factors that I knew that would be potentially predictive, and it worked. And in fact, it worked so well, I grew that sales group from about 3 million a year in sales to about 15 million a year in sales in the course of about a year. So it was amazing. And that was what happened to my career. It started to go like this, where this is my salary, my salary, my salary. And then it started to go like this. And you can see, you can't even see it in the screen, but it's going like off the chart now because step 3 happened. My CEO started to take notice of what I was doing. And this is what happens when you increase sales 500, 600%, it gets the attention of your CEO. And that led to my first promotion and a direct line of reporting to my CEO. Step 4 then happened. I kept repeating. So I tackled more and more projects. I helped them develop a new fast track program that grows 6 million in its first year. And then I also helped them develop this new engineered solutions product. So I was thrust into this leadership role. And what ended up happening was the rest of the company started to be like, oh man, Matt's like this person that like everything he touches turns to gold, right? R was secretly behind everything. So here's what happened in my career and what I was able to do with R. I went from managing 4 people at the beginning to managing about 60 people by the end. My salary doubled over the span of 2 years. It went from making about 75,000 when I was starting with them to making about 150,000 when I left that company. Word started spreading about my reputation with R. People began asking me to do consulting. I didn't ever mean to become a consultant, but eventually I started saying yes to some of these inquiries, and that led to a lot of stuff. I began creating software. This is a software package that I built. It's called TidyQuant. It's for financial analysis. If you're into the R programming language, you may have heard of it. And it's okay if you haven't, but it is used very widely in the finance space by all the major financial companies like JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and so on. Another one of my packages, time series, is Time TK. And this was a record that we just hit this past year. In about September, October timeframe, we hit over 1.1 million downloads. So we crossed the 1 million download mark for this package. It's related to time series. One of my big passions is forecasting. Because of all of the success, I began speaking. I began to take on speaking engagements, and then companies also then saw me in these speaking engagements, and that led to being invited to companies to do private training sessions. So this is one of the companies I began working for, S&P Global. You can see we're diving into some really intense training here. Everyone's, very serious here. We're at a breakout session. We're trying to solve some big problems. Everyone's serious, except for this guy right here. He's smiling. That's Moody. He's my buddy. I like to pick on him. He works at S&P Global. In fact, he works there right now. He's probably, and he may or may not be on this call. I'm not sure if he is. Moody, don't get upset, but I'm going to pick on you a little bit. He's a good guy though. He's a good guy. He was my point of contact there, and I still keep in touch with him to this day. In fact, he invited me back when we were doing on-sites to London to train S&P Global, and we had a lot of fun doing that. But my point is here that I got some pretty amazing results by learning R. You can do the same thing. In fact, the things that we're going to be teaching, even though we're teaching Python today, it's pretty much the same. R, Python, we can do a lot of the same skills. We can do a lot of the same things. But the point is data science. When you learn data science, these are the same tools that helped me get the attention of my CEO, helped me double my salary, helped me increase the impact on my organization, going from managing only 4 people at the beginning to managing 60 people at the end. Also allowed me to get into training and consulting. Wasn't really my my main passion, but it did help me find my main passion, which was training. And it also helped me make an impact on the lives of a bunch of data scientists. We'll talk about that more at the end. All right, so who's ready to do this? Put in the chat if you're ready to dive into this. Let's learn some NLP today. Who's psyched up? All right, let's go. All right, yeah, let's dive into it. Business problem for today, guys. Follow me here. This is a tricky business problem because I tricked my students, and I'm going to talk about this trick that I played on them today. So, but don't get me wrong. Don't make me out to be the bad guy. It's a good trick because it's going to help them. It's going to help them, and we'll talk about why here at the end. So we're going to be doing a customer survey. We're going to be talking about text. So question for you all, what's the best way to learn about customers? What do you think the best way is to find out about customers? All right, I see D has already put in ask, talk to them, listen. You guys are on the ball today. I did see some people say NLP, and NLP is what we're going to use after we ask them. But the best way to learn about customers is honestly, ask them questions. This is a tried and true method for you to figure out what your customers really want, is to ask them. So that's what I did. In fact, on Friday, January 28th, so just about a little over a week ago, I put this out there in my private Slack community for my business science students. And I said, hey guys, help me help you with the praying hands, right? And what I wanted them to do was I had put together this really simple survey. All it did was it basically said, I want to know very simply, what do you want me to teach you in 2022 in regards to learning labs? I'm told them I'm putting together my learning labs roadmap, and I really need to understand what is going to benefit you the most. So I told them to put their top 2 things in. So there's 2, each respondent had 2 answers. One was their top, and then one was the second most important thing. So fast forward, I asked them, guess what happened? They responded. And here's how much responses we got. We got a ton of responses. In fact, I didn't even, all this was in the Slack channel. I didn't even, email this out to, we've got an email list of like 50,000 subscribers, 60,000 subscribers, whatever it is. Honestly, this, the 1,500, the 2,000 people that are in our Slack channel are so like on it that immediately we got some amazing responses. And in fact, we got a ton more than I felt comfortable analyzing. So there was a big problem now. What's that big problem? Reviewing hundreds of survey responses is hard. Think about it. Like you go through and you're like, oh, this one wants this, but then this one wants this, and they're all different. Like who should I, give weight to? So what did I do? I decided to do some text analysis. See, they didn't realize this, but I was all along, what I wanted to do was I wanted to turn this into a learning lab. So they gave me the content that I needed for today. And today we're going to expose exactly how to analyze customer survey data, just like doing what I just did to my students. So that's the trick. But hopefully they don't hold it against me, because it's going to help them in the end. We're going to talk about how after we do the demo. All right. So how are we going to do this today? We're going to do 2 tools. The first one is Pycaret. This is deemed as a low-code machine learning library. I'm a big fan of it. I'm a big fan of the creator, Mose Ali. He's done a fantastic job building a team that's been working on this over the past couple of years, and it's grown tremendously. In fact, it's very popular. It's extremely popular, being downloaded. I think in the 2 years that it was out, it was downloaded over 1 million times, which is incredibly fast. So the thing is, I like this because it allows us to be more productive. We're going to see that today, how we can do a lot of stuff with a very few lines of code. So that's why they call it low code. But we'll also see some other data science tools in order to be able to do some more detailed NLP analysis. And we're actually going to be using also this Python library, Python package called Gensim. I'm not surprised if you guys haven't heard of that one. It's kind of flying under the radar, but it's really powerful. And we're going to see how powerful it is today for tokenization, because, and I'll talk about it when we get into it, but Tokenization is kind of a pain in the butt in Python. But this package made it a lot easier for me than, and I was going to try and use Spacey for today, but Spacey is another popular one. Tokenization with Spacey is brutal. So I like Gensim. All right. So why are we talking about these two packages? Well, I use those to make my 2022 event roadmap for Learning Labs. So we are going to reveal that here in just a little bit. But first, we're going to be doing the 30-minute demo. So here is what my Learning Labs Pro people are going to be getting today. This is the entire project. We're doing Lab 71 NLP Pi survey. And what we're going to be doing is working with this survey data. So there's a little folder in here. This is the survey data. In fact, what I'm going to do is open it in preview so we can actually see what this looks like. And you can see, we've got a lot of responses in here. And then what is your number one top Learning Lab topic? What's your number two? That's the two responses that each person. So each one of these timestamps, I've anonymized it so you can't see who the name of the person is or their email address or any of that stuff. So it's just literally the timestamp, when they submitted, and what their two topics were. So you can see it's all over the place. Imagine like going down through this, it would be very challenging. So we want to use NLP today to be able to kind of extract out the important topics. We're going to mainly be working out of this Pi file, but first for my LL Pro members, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to set up a new environment. These are the packages that I'm using. You're going to use this conda m create, just like I teach in my Python course. This will create this environment and it'll put the right versions of the packages. We'll be using Pycaret 236, and that'll actually install all of the necessary packages like Gensim and Spacey and stuff. Okay, so the main file that we're working out of today is this O1 customer survey analysis. So let me double click that so it stays open. This is again Learning Lab 71. We're doing some, we're going to be analyzing my customer survey data. Installation requirements. We already talked about running this. So you're going to put this, if I pull down here, if I drag open, you'll just put this right here in your terminal and it'll make conda m create, create our environment. That environment's called Lab 71 NLP Pi. So to use the NLP modules in Pycaret, which is mainly what we're going to be doing, we do have to install the Spacey English language model. The only trick is, so basically what you're going to do is you're going to activate your Learning Lab. So see this right here. If this is activated, it'll be showing right here. And then what you're going to do is if you're on Mac, you're going to type in where Python, and it's going to tell me the location of the Python. And then, so you're going to take this and you're going to replace that right here. And then, so yours isn't going to say mdancho, it's going to say something else. It's going to be the path to that Python that you've activated. And then then you're going to put this right behind it. So what this is going to do is it's going to download that Spacey English module and it's going to place it into the correct library, which is your environment, which is your Lab 71 NLP Python. And then you're also going to do the same thing for textblob.download corpora. So you're just going to run this again, replacing this with the appropriate path to your Python environment. Okay. If you're on PC, the process is the exact same. I think the only thing you need to do is do which Python. It's not where Python on PC. I think it's which Python, and that'll show you the location of your activated Python session. All right, cool. Then we can exit out of our terminal, and once all of that's set up, you're good to go. So we are going to be loading a few different libraries. Notice if I hit Shift and Enter, I have my VS Code session set up to send all of my code right over to, this is the, what is called like Jupyter Interactive. So you're going to want to set that up. And basically it allows you to use your Jupyter session with the same environment that your Python session is set up to run it. Okay, so we're running out of Lab 71 NLP Python, and I can see that right here. Okay, I've just imported pandas, NumPy. So pandas and NumPy are the main data wrangling and kind of like your statistical libraries, your numerical libraries. And then I've imported the Pycaret NLP module as NLP. And what that is being used for is that's going to be doing all of our NLP analysis for the Pycaret portion. We're also importing Plotly Express as PX. So Plotly Express, Plotly is a visualization tool, and Plotly Express is just kind of like a low-code visualization. So we'll see, we'll make some plots using it today. All right, then we move on to the data section. So we're going to load in our data. All I'm doing is I'm pointing to that survey data that's listed right over here. I'm going to hit Shift and Enter. And if I just take a look at my data frame now, Shift and Enter, it loads in that data. So we can see it's 84 rows by 3 columns, and you can see each person has 2 responses. Okay. We can also check out the shape of it. It's 84 by 3. I can check out the info. Now this gets a little crazy because these column headings are pretty long here, but what I'm looking at is the data. I want to make sure it's formatted properly. So this is a timestamp. I see it's formatted as an object, and I know that needs to be a datetime 64. And then these are formatted as objects, which is okay because that means it's just formatting it as a string or text. So we can leave that as is, but we got to change the, it's good practice to change the timestamp column over. So we're going to do that with this PD2 timestamp. And now if I look at my DF info again, I can see that timestamp's now datetime 64. Okay. The next thing that I'm going to notice is if I look at my data frame, so what I want to do is I actually want to stack this column and this column on top of each other because I just want to work out of one column. Basically this text, I'm going to run it all through the same process. So what you're going to be doing is basically getting this into the right format now. So we're going to do, this is all pandas data wrangling. So we're going to start with the data frame. I'm going to rename, these column names are crazy. So we want to just kind of rename them. I'm going to rename it timestamp, text 1 and text 2. So that's what I first do here. I'm just going to run there. Hold on. Let me hit Shift button, Shift and Enter. So you can see here, I've renamed these columns. Then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take the index and increment it up one, and that's going to be like kind of a user ID field that I create. So I'm going to use the assign function. User ID equals lambda x NP range. It's going to be so NP range will create a range from starting from here all the way down to the last row. And then I'm just going to add 1 to it. So the effect here is that if I can grab this, hit Shift and Enter, it's going to create a column called user ID here that just increments up 1, 2, 3, and then it ends at 84 at the last column. Okay, that's just to keep track of the responses, especially after I use this function called melt. So what melting does is I'm going to take this column and this column, and I'm going to kind of like stack them on top of each other. So I'm going to set an ID variable equal to my user ID column. I'm going to set value variables because the values that I want to have kind of stacked on top of each other are going to be in these 2 columns. And then the variable name, so the name for the resulting column that gets stacked after the transformation, I'm just going to call it text. So instead of text 1 and text 2, I'm just going to call it text. So let's run this, Shift Enter. And now we've got text here, which keeps track of text 1, text 2, and then we've got value here as well. So the value is the what was inside of the columns. The text is kind of like keeping track of the column name. All right, and so now it's 168 by 3. So we've just essentially just reshaped that data frame. The important thing is this value column now has all of that text that I want to run the NLP on. So we're going to save this as DF prepared, and then my data is ready. So now that we've got it in the right format, we can take that value column and start to do stuff with it. What are we going to do? Well, we're going to use Pycaret. I'm going to close this for now so we can really maximize our screen so we can see kind of what's in here. So here is the documentation for Pycaret. I just put that in the chat. If anyone wants to check that out, it's basically the resource that I use to help me put this together, this lab today. We're going to use from the NLP. So when we imported NLP, we imported Pycaret NLP as NLP. That's what we're going to be using here. That NLP has this function called setup. And that differs, like, depending on what you're using in Pycaret. If you're using their classification module or their regression module, they each have their own kind of setup functions. And what this does is it helps kind of pre-process your data. So we're going to take that DF prepared. I'm going to give it a target, which is the value column. So I'm telling it, okay, when we set up, we're going to be looking at this value column, and you can give it more than one column. You just supply them as a list, but we're just going to be mainly doing the NLP on a single column, which is what I normally recommend. And then we can provide these things called custom stop words. You know, if you look up here in my data, there's things like with, or if you actually review this, there's things like interesting or non or already or good cover. Those are things that aren't necessarily super important. The meat of it is the things like NLP, or our server would be something important, segmentation, those would be important things. So we want to take out the stuff that's not important and leave behind all the important stuff. And so we're going to run this. And what it's going to do is it's basically going to kind of do the pre-processing. So it's running, it's processing that corpus, and then it spits out this kind of, it's just a data frame that tells you kind of a summary. There was a session ID that we used of 1, 2, 3 that helps make it more reproducible. The documents that it analyzed was 168. That means there's 168 of these items in the value column. The vocabulary size is 345, so there's 345 unique words, and then it's got a true here of custom stop words. Okay, so this so I've saved this as exp. Short for experiment setup. So my experiment setup is kind of an interesting object. So it keeps track of a lot of stuff, but when you just kind of output it to the screen or print that object, it shows you kind of what it's doing. What's weird here though, and this is what I noticed with the Pycaret when I ran it on here, is that I got rid of some of these words. So what it's doing is trying to implement that low code strategy of kind of automating things. But in this case, for me, it kind of over automated it a little bit because it got rid of some of these high frequency words. So in NLP, a lot of times it's a good practice to remove words that appear too many times, because they can be like not important, like things like the. The is all over the place. So you may want to remove that either through your stop words, or if it's a word that appears too frequently, then it tends to have no meaning. But in this case, it does have meaning. So we'll talk about how I dealt with that here in a little bit. But you can see what it's doing also. It's kind of getting rid of, it's kind of breaking up this thing like work with our server initialized jobs. It breaks it up into work initialized job. The next one is segmentation model. So it broke this one up into segmentation models. See how it got rid of the S on the end, and it kind of cleaned that text data up a little bit. All right. So this is what's called tokenization. It's the process of going through those kind of sentences that the users provide, splitting them up into words. Some of the important stuff within our experiment, that experiment's actually a tuple. If we run type experiment, we can see it's a tuple, and that tuple has different elements. So like 0, this gives us the output of that, the text kind of splitting up of the text. Experiment 1 gives us the cleaned data. So work initialized job, segmentation model, and it got rid of some of these like the high frequency words. And then I also saw that the experiment setup part 6 has multiple elements, so you can get kind of like the you can return the summary and some of the other items, so like the data set and so on. I'm not sure what this was, but it probably means something to somebody. I think if you see a 2 in here as the second element, it's I want to say it's going to be a bigram. but I'm not seeing any. I'm seeing mainly ones, meaning they're mostly unigrams. We'll talk about what a unigram and a bigram is in a little bit. All right. So why do this with Pycaret? Well, the advantage of doing with Pycaret is now what we can do is called create an NLP model. So we're going to be using this thing called LDA, which is short for linear discriminant analysis. And what this does is if you go a couple labs ago, we did kind of like a basic analysis where we just looked at like word counts and frequencies of unigrams and bigrams. Again, I'll talk about what those are in a minute. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take it a step up and we're going to actually look at, all right, what topics are in my data set? And the topics are really important because what I want to know is, all right, I got all this massive amount of data, but like what topics should I be presenting in Learning Labs Pro this year in 2022? Like that's very helpful to me. So I wanted to set up an LDA model. So this is how easy it is to set up. And this is the advantage of using Pycaret. Is it's literally one line of code here. So nlp.create model. We're going to create an linear discriminant analysis model while that's running. So it's running right now. And actually it's already done. You can see it creates a Gensim model. Okay. So it's using Gensim under the hood. That create models, if I hover over this, we can scroll down here and there's different types of models that you can create. So LDA, which is probably your most common, latent Dirichlet allocation. I'm probably butchering that. I always just call it LDA, but it's basically a topic model. And then there's several other different styles of models or types of algorithms that you can run. Once you make that, then you can assign the model. And what that does is it modifies your data. So here, it produces a new data set where it had that value in here, and you can see what it did. It's that 168 rows, and then it's classifying these. And I told it to create 3 topics. So it's giving a probability of being in each of the 3 topics. So this first topic, it's like an equal probability because it got rid of that term, right? So there's no term in here, so it's equally likely to be in either of these. So they just pick a dominant topic of topic 0. But we can see here, this fourth one is dominant topic 1. So we can see it's, and the way you would interpret this is it's 83% likely to be in topic 1. Okay. So with this information in hand, I now have dominant topics. I have 3 topics that I've split these up into, and I can kind of then break it down and analyze those topics. So how would we evaluate the model? Well, the Pycaret makes it super simple. So once you have created your model, so my model LDA1, which is right here, we've assigned the model so we can actually kind of like analyze if we want the actual topics for each row. We've got it right here. And then now if I want to evaluate this information, we can do that too. So I just ran this NLP evaluate model, and this is what's cool. So I'm going to click this run interact. And what it's doing is it's showing me the word frequency for each of the topics. So this first topic is pretty heavy on, and I'm going to zoom in here because it's not showing all of the words. So let me do that. Yeah. So you can see it's use, model, science, analysis, production, shiny, apps. So this one might be kind of related to like production, maybe some modeling and analysis and production. We can move then on to the next topic, run the interactions, do the same process. So if I look at this one, I can see geospatial, optimization, use, company, environment, analytic, datum. So the main topics would be like geospatial and optimization in this next topic. And then if I do the same thing on the third one, so let me scroll down here, we can zoom in on this, and you got machine, production, Bayesian. So this is different. So we got a Bayesian, we got, you know, kind of like maybe an optimization, process, an event. So maybe like some topics that we should consider would be like Bayesian, geospatial for the second topic. For this topic here, when we ran that, the geospatial was the number 1. And then for that first one, or topic 0, this is kind of like a mishmash. It just has use here, which isn't super important. Model. So this would be more like maybe like analysis, shiny, maybe production. I don't know. So that's kind of like the information that you can start to glean in these different topics. It's trying to break it up and help me decide which topics I'm going to teach in my learning labs. That's the general idea here. You can also check out bigrams. So this can be important if you run the interactions. So this topic 0 has use GitHub. Okay, so here's a little more information. Use GitHub appeared 3 times by 3 different students. So maybe that's important from this topic 0. If I move to topic 1, let's see what happened. Use case, use optimization pulp, Pyoma. So these are optimization. So optimization might be important in this next one. And then topic 2, same thing. Customer value. So that was one of the analysis, but that only appeared twice. So it's not super frequent. So these are just kind of different ways that you can use this information. If you're doing sentiment analysis, which we really don't care about in this, but if you had angry customers, sentiment polarity might be important. But the other thing that's important is this word cloud. This is really important because this will show you what are the dominant words that are popping out. So you can see real quickly here, production and Bayesian. So Bayesian is really important. Production process, that's really important in this second topic. The first topic, run the interaction again with word cloud. And you can see geospatial is probably the dominant topic there. Optimization is the second most dominant topic. And then same thing here with the topic 0, model, shiny, API, production, use, and those sorts of things. Okay, cool. Does that make sense to everyone? How I'm kind of using this and evaluating the models and using this information to help me develop topics for my learning labs? Does that make sense? All right, kind of cool. Okay, all right. Well, we're gonna make more sense of it here in a minute. Some more stuff you can do. And I want to show off some of the capabilities that you can do. So there's this NLP tune model. And what this will do is it'll try and figure out. So up here, I selected the number of topics 3. What this will do is it'll try and kind of figure out what the optimal number of topics are. Now, here's the key thing. So this is tuning it. It's going to take a little bit to process. But what it's going to try and do is maximize the highest, what's called a coherence score. So it's going to try and pick out the best score for the model, and it's going to print a visual of that once it's done. So it should be just wrapping up here and should be just finishing. Hopefully it's done here in just a second. I did multi-core true, but sometimes, when I'm running Zoom, it takes a little bit. Okay, cool. So 2 topics, 8 topics goes down, 16 topics, and then it starts to go back up. So I can see probably fewer topics are a little bit better here because you want to try to maximize that coherence score. But if you then go up to like 300 or 400 topics, that score starts to increase again. So probably fewer topics is a little bit better. 8 topics, starts to decrease quite a bit. Again, it's we're looking at 0.48 versus 0.56, so it's not super huge differences. But this is kind of telling me that fewer topics is probably better, and that's okay because we went with 3 topics, which should be pretty good. Okay, I'm going to skip some of this. Well, we did the so if you want to do that same process that we ran, we can then assign the model and evaluate the model. So this is that tuned model, and you can see here now. There's only 2 topics in this tuned model, but we can always get that original model back. So if I run this up here, the evaluate the original model, if I want my 3 topics, I got that right back. So the tuning can help you, or it might not, but that's kind of how it works. All right, and then there's some plotting features. So some plotting utilities, we can do a topic distribution. We can see, how many topics. So predominantly, there's 97 documents that are topic 0. There's 42 that are topic 1 and 29 that are topic 2. We can also visualize these topics to see if there's, see how these topics are being clustered. We're using this thing called TSNE. And you can see that there seems to be some clustering going on. The green topics are all up here in the top corner here. The blue are kind of like spread out. So those are, and that's topic 0, which was kind of that mishmash. So that makes sense. It's kind of all spread out all over the place. And then topic 1 is kind of down here at the bottom right. So it does look like there's some clustering going on here with the topics. And then you can make some frequency plots. So this is kind of like what we did already with the evaluation. So this is for topic 1. If I want to do topic 0, I can get that plot. And that might be if you're putting these into an application and you just want to put the plot in there. Okay, so there is kind of an issue here. Can anyone find out what the issue is if we take a look back at our data with what we've got going on in this column here? Does anyone see it? So look at these first 3 rows. What's going on? Yeah, we got some missing values. So what Pycaret does is implements an NLP technique where they remove the most frequent terms because I think in NLP, a lot of times that's acceptable. But for me, in this particular case, those most frequent terms are actually really important. We're going to see that here. So how do I deal with that? Well, what I did was, and I added a new section here, and I started using Gensim. So Gensim, we're going to see this. It's a little more codey, whereas like where Pycaret is kind of like has everything kind of already ready for you to go. But the downside is sometimes it can kind of do a little bit too much. And in this case, it did a little too much for me. So I'm going to import this thing called Gensim. And what we're going to do is from the first thing is I'm just going to show you how Gensim works. We're going to use a few functions. One comes from the utils module. It's called simple preprocess. If we run it on a sentence, see how it just kind of splits it up into the sentence. So what we can do is just run a quick loop. And if I take my DF prepared column, so it has to be an iterable. So this is a pandas series. It's got my NLP in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use that simple preprocessor on each element in here. And I'm going to append it to a list. And that list is called tokens. So when I do that, I do Shift Enter. You can see what it does is it spits out all the tokens for me because I'm printing each of those in here in my loop. So here's what that loop looks like. We're just adding, we're creating a list item. We're going to print that list item, and then we're going to append it to this tokens list. Okay. And then here's what if I put it into a Panda series, here's what it looks like. And it's just now split out all those tokens. And the advantage here is Pycaret got rid of some of these like NLP, which are really dominant, and I'm able to now keep them. But there's some things that I'll want to do. So remove some stop words. I saw some stop words in here, like things like with. We'll want to remove those. So I'm importing next from NLTK corpus. I'm importing this thing called stop words. So stop words is this kind of weird object called a wordless corpus reader. But if you use the stop words.words English, it'll pull in a list of all of the English stop words that are most common to use. So I'm going to save those as stop underscore words. Those are the words that I want to try and remove. And I'm going to take my tokens, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to process each of these. Now, because each of these are a list within a list, so there's a list here, and then they're part of a bigger list, I have to loop through each of these twice. So I'm going to first break out each element, and then I'm going to loop through each element within the list. And that's why there's 2. And you're going to see here for I in tokens. Then we're going to create a separate list for word in I. And then we're going to say, and that's going to get us into this inner loop here. So to look at NLP, if word is not in stop words, then it's going to add it to a new list called II. And then we're going to add that to the main list, which is going to be called tokens stop words removed. Now, a lot of times with beginners, these double loops, and actually even just a regular loop, can kind of throw you through a hurdle. But the important thing to understand is that this is a easy way to remove words from kind of these nested lists. So when I run this, here's what it does. If I do Shift and Enter, and if I now take a look at that list, what it did was it removed some of those stop words, like with, for example, is no longer in there. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is, now that I've got each of these words here, I'm going to do what's called a frequency analysis, where I'm just going to total up and see which terms include, or occur the most frequently. So I'm going to make a copy of my DF prepared, and I'm going to call this DF tokenized. Hasn't been tokenized yet, but what I'm going to do is add a new column called tokens, and I'm going to put into that column my token stop word removed. So now I have my tokens in here. And then what I can do is I can use this handy function in pandas. So if I just take just these two columns, user ID and tokens, because I don't need these two columns for my analysis. I'm just going to take these two columns here. And then I'm going to do what's called exploding. Has anyone used explode before? This is what it does. So I had 168 rows. Now I have 932 rows. And now I can see which terms occur most frequently. Yes, because here's what it did. This fourth one that has 4 terms in it, work, server, initialize jobs, what it made those is now rows, work, our server, and you can't see the other two because they kind of get, they're in the dots, but believe me, they're there. Okay, so we've now just unnested. Now I'm going to take my tokens, which is right here. I'm going to do my value counts function. And now I can see which ones occur most frequently. And then I'm going to put it into a data frame. Okay, so shift and enter. I'm going to call this DF term frequency. And now I have my most frequent terms, and I can visualize it with Plotly Express. Yay, this is good because now I can see what's most important. Things like time. So maybe I have to figure out why that's important. Data, well, data's, pretty obvious. I better be analyzing some data, but series. So here's what I thought is maybe time and series go together because they both occur 22 times. So they both occur about the same amount of times. Bayesian, I know what that is, but time and series. So what does that mean? Maybe we need to look at the co-occurrences, meaning when time and series, if they both are next to each other. So that's what we call bigrams. So something like time series is a phrase that we want to analyze. So we can actually do it kind of using basically the same approach that we used up here, and just taking my token stop words that looks like this with each of just the unigrams. And then we can use this thing called Gensim models phrases, and this will allow us to create bigrams. So our first bigram is going to be created. And we'll create this thing called a bigram model. Now it's a little, I don't understand 100% like exactly what it's doing, but I'm just kind of following what I found on through the documentation. So basically what we're going to be doing is using some sort of threshold. I'm putting that threshold really low so it doesn't remove anything like NLP or anything that also occurs very few times. And I'm saying min count equals 1. Because I want like everything to be returned. And then you're going to use so once you create this bigram model, you're going to pass that to this thing called a phraser. And then what that does is it returns the result, but it returns it in kind of this weird object. It's a Gensim model phrases phraser. So we have to go through that object and grab out all of the unigrams and bigrams. So it's going to take, we're going to create this thing called a bigram list, and we're going to do for I and token stop words removed. We're going to take and append the bigrams model. So and we're just going to cycle through it. So shift enter, and that makes this bigrams list. And we can see here that it's returning the unigrams, but also now in certain situations, it's returning a bigram, optimization dash OMPR. How did it know to kind of combine those with a dash? Well, that's what I told it to put in here with this delimiter. You put a B and then in quotes, you give it the delimiter. And that's why it's returning those bigrams. It's not returning all the bigrams because we would need to adjust some of these if we wanted like all of the bigrams, but it's at least producing the most frequent bigrams. Okay. So now we got our bigrams. We can do the same bigram analysis. This code, I'm going to fly through it because it's the same as what we did up here with this DF tokenized and just printing the plot. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make a copy. We're going to then add the tokens. That's going to be our DF bigram. We got our tokens right here. We can see that there's would like as a bigram. So it has now included those. Then we're going to explode them, shift enter. And we now have the data frame that we need to do our analysis. And we can see Bayesian is on top, and we've got time dash series now, which is much more important than time and series. And it occurs 15 times. And then we can visualize it. So if I zoom in, now I can see the true topics that I need to be analyzing. Bayesian, MLOps, data, we're going to toss that one. Data doesn't mean much to us. Time series, yes. Python, yes. NLP, yes. Using, doesn't mean much. Analysis, doesn't mean much. Geospatial, yes. Production, yes. ML, obviously. Models, same thing. Forecasting, all right, let's double down on time series. Analytics, obviously. Use, one, doesn't mean much. Optimization. So you can see how now I'm getting the true topics that I need by doing this bigram analysis, right? So does that make sense, everyone? Put it in the chat if that makes sense. Okay, all right. So I'm seeing yes, yes, yes. Okay, cool. So we've got two approaches that I've showed you now, the Pycaret, and you now have the NLP modeling, all right? So we now have everything we need to finish this presentation and develop my learning event roadmap. So who's ready with me? Who wants to see that learning event roadmap with me? Put yes in the chat right now. All right, all right. Let's figure out what I'm going to be teaching in 2022. All right. So what did I pick for 2022? What did I pick? Well, I'm not just going to give you the results because I want to let you know where we're coming from. So in order to understand the future, we need to understand the past, and we need to see what we've been doing in Learning Labs over the past 2 years. So here's where we came from, and this is in order of recency. So most recent, we just recently did risk analysis. So and actually currently what we're doing is NLP. So I probably should have put NLP because we had the NLP R lab just a couple of weeks ago. But we did risk analysis showing how to go from Excel to R and Python. So we can't do that. We can't do that going forward, but that didn't show up in the Learning Lab topics. So we're good there. Spark actually did show up a few times, but it was towards the bottom. So, but even if it was at the top, I wouldn't do it because we just recently did Spark. Time series. Now here's the deal. Time series, A, I'm passionate about it. B, it came up again, so we need to learn some more. And C, it's such a massive topic that I can do more there. And you can see we've got 11 labs on time series already. So heck yeah, I love time series, and there's more I can talk about. So we are going to be doing some time series. You can bet your butts that that's going to be in there. Customer analytics, we're not going to do that because we just did a customer lifetime value, RFM analysis, and market mix modeling labs. So we've got 4 of those labs. So we're not going to do those here in 2022. Targets, we did it last year. So we're going to do that. We're leaving that last year. Tidy modeling ecosystem, we did that last year. So we're leaving it back there. And then building an R package, we're leaving that back there. That didn't come up, but we're leaving it back there. And we also have 42 more labs. So if you total these up, that's only like 20 labs. That's what we did last year, but we still have many more labs. So you can see there's a lot of important topics. And in fact, if you want to go check them out, I'll even do you a solid. I'll do you a favor. I'll put the link in the chat if you guys want to check it out. And this is the full list of what you can learn. Just click that link in the chat. I'm not going to go through it on here, but if you want in your own free time, you can go through it. And if you want, you can even sign up for it. In fact, this lab that you're watching here, the recording and all of the code that you saw in the video and the slides, that's all going to go into Learning Labs Pro. So if you join, you'll get that. But I know you guys are good note takers, so you probably don't need that, right? Yeah. But lots of topics there. In fact, you can see we're up to 70. All right. So here's where we're going. Before I give you the Learning Lab roadmap, you have to understand I have 3 goals. And this is 2022, but it's also been my goals in the past, is to help you, my students, get jobs, get raises, and get promotions, because I want your career to be just as successful as my career was. In fact, I want yours to be even more successful. So that's where we're going. And I've reached out to my community and I said, hey, this is what I want to do. And you know what they told me, my students, they said, hey, teach me, pick the topics, whatever you want, but just help me get, help me keep improving my career. Help me get jobs, help me get raises. So that's what I'm going to do. And remember, my career saw this massive benefit from learning this stuff, right? Data science. I went from 75K a year to 150K a year. That's a big jump. And this is 2016 timeframe, because I haven't worked since 2016. I've been doing this stuff. I've been doing business science since then. So there's some inflation going on, right? It's probably even more by now. So let's recap. We did the analysis. This is what it told me. These are important. So what am I going to do? Here is the roadmap, the moment you guys have been waiting for. We're learning in 2022. NLP, obviously, because we're teaching it right now. Natural language processing in R and Python. In fact, if you like this lesson, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to have another lesson where we're going to do machine learning now with NLP. So actually taking text data. We didn't do, we created an LDA model, which is great, but we didn't do any machine learning where we're actually trying to predict something and use text data to help us predict better. Text data, I am telling you, is a gold mine. So we're going to be doing more NLP, and I'm going to show you the secrets of how to use NLP. The second thing, you guessed it, Bayesian. So Bayes, we're going to be talking about how to model uncertainty, and we're going to be talking about how we can use all of these tools in R and Python to be able to better ourselves and better understand uncertainty and model it using, which is really important in decision making in businesses, because they don't care about your prediction nearly as much as they care about, what's the range of the data, what is the likelihood of the data. You can answer these questions with Bayesian. Third one, production and ML ops. So this was apparent. People wanted APIs, deployment, managing the machine learning cycle, life cycle. In fact, I actually went through some of these survey results and I saw they care about model drift, things like that. Things like when you put a model into production, what happens later on down the road when my data changes. So we're going to be talking about all of that. Time series, of course, I'm going to double down on this. In fact, I created half of the packages that I'm going to be teaching, model time, time TK. So heck yeah, let's do some more time series. We're going to be talking about TS features. We're going to be talking about some new advancements out there, and we're just going to be doing all sorts of crazy stuff. We're going to have special series on time series left and right. So we're going to be seeing a lot of that this year. And the last two, geospatial and more optimization. Now I've already done optimization, but that was 2 years ago. So I'm betting a lot has changed. And I think we're going to see some cool things. And I never did it in Python, so we're going to be doing it in Python. Geospatial, the same thing. We're going to be doing R. I've never even done geospatial analysis before, so we're going to be doing that. So lots of stuff. But I have some conclusions for you for today. So stick with me. We got a little bit more to go through. Let me ask you a question. Is this what we did today? The organization, or my conclusion right now, the organization is able to automate customer survey data, which improves the selection of my learning labs. Is that what I did today in this learning lab? All right, good. I'm seeing some no's. No, no, no. Yeah, Jennifer's saying no. Mark's saying no. James says, I learned from last time. Yep, you got it. No, we did not do that today. You know what I just did today? Here's what we really did. I just single-handedly figured out how to reduce churn and increase profitability of business science for the years to come, because I tricked my students into telling me exactly what they want. So I can then give that back to them and make them super satisfied customers. And on top of that, retain them for even longer, because I love giving them what they want and they love receiving what I give them, because it's exactly what they want. So this trick is all about making my customers happy. And that's what we did. We just improved profitability for business science by making customers happy, by asking them what they wanted and using NLP to figure that out. All right. So do you understand now, guys, why data science is in demand? What I just did for my business was reduce churn and increase the profitability. But do you understand like what you can do if you employ not only this technique, but other techniques into your businesses. And this is why the job market for data science is super crazy right now. Answer for me in the chat. Who here is interested in getting into data science that is not already a data scientist? Okay, me. Yes, me. Okay, I'm seeing me. All right. Because we got a little bit more to go. And I want to help you in 2022. So you got two options though. Option A, you can go back to school. This is going to be a lot of money and it's going to take 4 years. And I'm emphasizing 4 years. By the time you get out, the tools will all have changed and all the companies, they will already have filled positions. So you will have missed out. So there's a second option. And this is what I did. Option B is learn it yourself. This took me 5 years of trial and error. So 5 years, even longer than school. And it cost me a lot of time. Plus, as I mentioned before, companies need to fill positions right now. So you would miss out on these opportunities. So between you and me, options A and B both suck. And there's an option C that I didn't even talk about yet. This is where you and I work together. Is anyone interested in seeing what that looks like? Okay, all right, yes, I will continue, because if you don't want me to continue, I will stop. Here's the deal. I know that I can teach you everything you need to know in 6 months. In fact, I can prove that. Here is how. This is Justin. This is a data scientist that started working with me. He was in academia, and within 6 months of starting my programs, he transitioned from academia into the lead data scientist position at Northwestern Mutual. He's probably making a lot of money. He says his life is better for it. And he's also, having a worthwhile career that I'm sure he loves. I know he's got a new child coming on the way. And I know for a fact that making this career move was the right one for him. So that's how I know that this can help change lives. And I know that that is a defined time frame between now and 6 months from now. So answer these questions with me. What if you gave it your all over the next 6 months? So that's 180 days from now. If you give it your all over 180 days, put in some work, what do you think will happen to you? So let me also clarify. You're not going to become a magical data scientist after learning 3 lines of code and just copying what I did here today. Like, we have to be honest. You may be able to apply this to a customer survey data set, but what happens when you get a new problem and your problems are going to be different in your businesses? So you have to be committed to learning data science, and I will teach you everything you need to know. So for those of you who are interested, here's what it looks like. This is how your career will grow after learning data science. And I use a defined framework where I teach you progressively the skills that you need to learn. Things like data preparation and visualization, modeling and applications, and how to deploy and productionalize your results. So this is what ends up happening when you learn these skills. This is how applying these skills to a job allows your career to grow. So you go from being a foundational person that knows like some data preparation and visualization. That's good enough to get you probably any business analyst job. But we don't want to become business analysts. We want to become data scientists. Data science is where the money is at. It's also, the job market is crazy right now. People are changing jobs left and right, and we don't want to get into all the issues that are out there. But basically, there is a massive shortage of data scientists, and it's even worse because the job market is even worse right now in terms of companies are having a tough time filling positions. So this is really good for data scientists. So if you learn modeling and add machine learning, and this is what I teach you in the second set of courses, you will become a data scientist. And as you grow and learn more, you become a senior data scientist. And these guys, this is really where it's at, because this is really where you're able to make an impact on the organization and your career will just skyrocket. Just like, remember, mine went kind of up and to the right like that. That's exactly what's going to happen to yours. So let's talk about this. How do I know this can help you? Well, I've got testimonials, and these are the people that I've helped in the past, and the past is a predictor of the future, right? So this is Jennifer. She landed her VP of Strategic Analytics role. How did she do that? She took my courses. She actually applied them in the interview process when she was interviewing with JP Morgan. She was able to do a take-home exam following my problem frameworks that she learned in the course, and also using our Markdown to provide a polished report. And it impressed the hiring manager so much, he was willing to fast track an offer. She landed her dream role as a VP of Strategic Analytics. But if this just happened once, then it would be a fluke, right? Well, it didn't. So we've got more. We've got Ben, and he says here, after years of struggling, I now have 2 job offers. So he was interviewing and he got into a competitive situation, which is the ideal situation that you want to be into, because you can pick literally which job position you want. And it's not always based on money. A lot of times it's based on fit. Which one do you like? Which one sounds more interesting? So you now have options, and he had options. So he says the material that he learned in my courses has paid off. What about Chris? Chris says that because of the courses that Matt has provided, I landed my first data science role. And he said setting up shiny dashboards in AWS was extremely helpful during the interview, as people interviewing me were looking for someone that had knowledge of cloud technologies. So that was critical. He's checking off the boxes in these interviews. Mohana says, I got a 40% pay hike. I can get a job wherever I want. And this is amazing. So now he is a lead data scientist for a company called MoneyView. I got a 20% pay raise. I couldn't have done it without you. This is August. He's a student in my time series courses and my R courses, and also the Python courses. He says he could not have done it without me. So this is how I know I can help you. I have one more. This is one of my students, Ramzi. So Ramzi sent me this morning. What did he do? He took a snapshot of what he shared online and to his buddies. And he says, sorry, I didn't post this sooner. This is an awesome seminar by Matt Dancho, another person I follow. In fact, I'm paid subscriber to his webinars, have enrolled for his courses, including the Python one. He is literally the best there is in the value he offers. Can't recommend anyone else more. He teaches business science. And what did he share? He shared the Zoom call that you guys are on right now. That's crazy, right? But that tells you the proof of what I'm doing here and why I want to help you. I want to make an impact in your life. And these are the impacts I'm having in other people's. So transformation is possible. We know that, right? The transformation can happen to you. There should now no longer be any doubt. It's happened to lots of people. In fact, I didn't even talk about some of these. Here's 5 more. Actually, I did talk about Mahana. So these 4 are other ones that had the transformation. And here's what they're doing. So this is probably, if I was in your shoes, I'd be wondering, what the heck are these guys doing that I'm not doing? And this is what they're doing. So this is what's called the 5-course R track. Does anyone know why I call it the 5-course R track? I'll give you a hint. There's 5 courses. And that's what is helping them. What do you do in the 5-course R track? This is what you do. You complete projects. I'm a project-based teacher, so every course is designed around projects, and this helps you learn to integrate the skills that you're learning. So it's way different than boot camps that just try and teach you everything, and then you have to figure out how to apply them. I do the opposite. I teach you very small subset of skills, but I teach you how to master those skills in order to complete all of these projects. So things like customer segmentation, product price prediction, churn prediction, demand forecasting apps. So we're now moving into productionalization, product price recommender app, stock analyzer app, application library. Okay. So what you're building are actually things like what you would do in your job, which is you're solving problems, you're given a problem, and then you're completing projects and you're productionalizing work. You're actually packaging your analysis. So this is just an example of one of the projects that you might build, which is a stock analyzer. And this is what we call a full stack web application. It has users, it has authentication, all the bells and whistles that enterprises need in order to be able to deploy in a secure work setting. So you learn how to do all that stuff. Plus, I didn't even talk about this yet, but the other thing that helps these students that are learning data science and how they're able to succeed where they've failed in the past with other platforms is I give you access to me. So you can ask questions through the Slack channel. Plus, I even put cool things in like careers. And this is a person that had reached out to me and she said, hey, I want to tap into your network of students, and we have an R position with Shiny, and we really need somebody with those skill sets. And they're saying we're starting to get into R Shiny. We need people that you have. So this is a summary. What comes in this program is thousands of videos, 130 plus hours of content. We could talk about stats all day, 8 end-to-end projects, private community mentorship, lifetime access, 30-day money-back guarantee. But what really comes inside is that transformation, the process that you go from where you're at now to a data scientist in a defined time period. If you're motivated, you can get it done in 6 months, and I'll be there in your corner to help you out. So here's what you guys are going to get. If you take a look at my website, these are real prices. We just went through some price increases and price changes, and these are the prices if you were to buy each of these separately. So you're getting all 5 of these courses, total value $3,995. But you're not going to pay that today. In fact, if you go to my website right now, and I can give you this right now, you can get it for $24.97. But you guys have just invested an hour plus of your time, an hour and 20 minutes of your time sitting to me babble on about how you can become a data scientist. So I need to reward you guys. For my action takers who want to make a decision and jump into my program with 2 feet until Friday at midnight, I'm going to give you guys access to this course, all 5 of these courses for $19.99. All right. So who wants in? I will stand by. I'm going to give you the link right now. Let me do this. Whoops. Let me go back here. I need to get that link. I think I have it over here. All right. Link is now officially in the chat. And I'm even going to open it up here to show you guys what you guys are getting. So you're getting $500 off. And if you scroll down through, you can see it's testimonial after testimonial, because that's what I care about. I only care about results. You can see what people are building, and you can see right here that discount applies only to the one-time payment. There is also a multi-payment plan, which is totally fine. If you're on a monthly budget and you want that, you can get it for $249 a month. But unfortunately, the offer only applies for the people who want to take it today or until Friday of $19.99 to the one-time payment plan. So that's going to give you the best savings, and that's going to help you the most. Dive in 2 feet and let's do it. Okay. With that said, what I'm going to do now is we're going to answer some questions. Okay. I see questions. What about Python? If you guys want Python, anyone want Python? I have a Python course for you too. I'll put that in the link. The Python course you can get as well. So if you're interested in Python, unfortunately, I only have 1 course available, and it's probably going to get you maybe to the bare minimum of data scientists. It'll get you definitely through business analyst, but I don't know about data scientists. Data scientists, we have a 2nd course coming soon, but it's pretty cool, and you can get that for $5.99. So the choice is yours. Do you want it in 6 months with what I have available? Or if you want Python, you can go that route too, but you're gonna have to wait until I drop the new courses, and those are coming. All right, questions. We have some questions in the chat, and this is what I need to answer. So LDA, so Caleb asks, LDA topic modeling and parameter tuning. I'm not 100% sure what the question is. We did go through, we did go through the Pycaret form of LDA, and we saw how we can tune the number of topics. That's the only tuning that they offer, or that I was aware, at least when I reviewed the documentation. So that's kind of the only parameter tuning that I'm aware of if you want to do that through Pycaret. DAD asks, where will we be able to get a copy of this? It'll be released in Learning Labs Pro. I can give you guys a link if you want to join Learning Labs Pro. It's a subscription product that you are more than welcome to join into. I just put that in the cheat sheet, or that in the chat. There we go. Venkatesh asks, hi, Matt. I see you have built the 5 data science courses using R. Do you have it available in Python, please, coming in the future? Yep, I am working on that exactly right now. It is taking a long time because each course takes me many months to develop. And quite honestly, I have to learn a lot more to build Python courses than I do with R because I've already mastered R. Now there is a little bit of translation, or some things I can just kind of translate. Like for example, this lab didn't really take me that long, maybe an hour or two. But in terms of building a full Python course, it does take a little bit longer. So probably in the next month or two, we'll have the next Python machine learning course, and I just did put the Python course in the chat, so you can check that out, Venkatesh. Venkatesh, does your videos in data science cover how to translate model outputs to business impact in terms of dollars, please? Yes, the next course that I teach in Python, which will be our Python for machine learning and APIs, is going to go through my business science problem framework. It's the same one that Jennifer used to get the job. It's also available. If you look at this course right here, so if I go back up, if you're interested in learning R, that's available right now. Let's go back to this course right here. You can kind of see the outline of it. It's this framework here. So I teach that in Data Science for Business Part 2. It's how to generate business impact in terms of financial results and estimate your impact in terms of return on investment, ROI. So that's what businesses care about. That's what I teach you how to do in the second course. And again, this course is not available in Python yet. All right. Okay. All right. Where was I? Okay. So 1999 until Friday at midnight. Ogushi asks, are you going to include R versions, not just Python? So we have the R versions of the courses, which I've just sent you guys links. That's the 1999. The labs have both R and Python labs, and we saw that in the future plan. I'm going to be continuing to do both R and Python labs probably every other week on things like NLP, geospatial, Bayesian, and so on. So we are going to be showing both R and Python in a lot of different scenarios. Okay, Jenna asks, I am only allowed to use R at my current job. Can we do the same analysis in R? Can we run this code inside of R? Thank you in advance. So I actually just a couple of weeks ago did the NLP lab in R, and then the next lab that I do is going to be machine learning with R. So we're going to be showing similar capabilities. Would you be able to do this exact same stuff in R? Yes, you can. We can do using what we learned 2 weeks ago. We could apply the same thing. Now it was a different problem because I analyzed resumes, and I took a picture of a resume and I showed how you could extract the text out and then do the tokenization and the bigrams and the frequency counts using in that particular lab. So that was several weeks ago. Definitely check that out. Also the R track, if you're interested in really learning R and advancing your career, the 5-course R track is the way to go. Good question, Janet. Paul asks, what are the pros and cons of doing NLP and R and Python? So this is a lot of it comes down to preference. The tools really don't matter. It's the results. If you can get results with R or Python, either or, it doesn't really matter. The business only really cares about results. There's going to be certain situations, like for me, tidy text is so much easier to use than even Gensim for the tokenization. We saw that tidy text a couple of weeks ago. Tidy text is so easy to use. That's only available in R. In Python, though, Pycaret, I mean, if you're doing an LDA analysis, that was pretty easy. Now, there were some issues because they removed some of the words that I wanted them to keep, but, it was very easy. And that's kind of the cool thing with machine learning Python, especially with the Pycaret package. I'm a big fan of Pycaret. In fact, we're going to be teaching that in our Python machine learning APIs course that's coming out soon. But, my preference is, I think you should know both. You should probably specialize in one at first. My preference to specialize, if you're coming from business, learn R. If you're coming from computer science background, Python will probably feel a little more natural. R is my tool of choice, so I'm always going to be, a big proponent of that. You can do so much with it. It's insane what you can do with R. but both are good. Good question, Paul. Bruno asks, hey, Matt, know or where can I download other languages instead of English? So if you look at Spacey's modeling package, they have different versions. Like you can download Spanish, or you can download Italian, or I think even Chinese. They have a Chinese language model. So there's a lot of capability out there. You just have to download. You just have to figure out how to download that, and it's on the Spacey documentation. Okay. Sia Bulela asks, almost thought LDA stood for latent Dirichlet allocation. I believe it does. I believe it does. So LDA is one of the most common topic modeling, like algorithms used for topic modeling. So that's basically what it stands for. It is a kind of a mouthful, but it's really useful algorithm. So I call it LDA. Michael asks, does this model account for answers with misspellings or bad answers, bot answers who misunderstand the questions? So it does its best. I mean, if something gets totally butchered, it's not going to pick that up, but it does a fairly good job. Again, what ends up being usually more important is counting the frequencies and understanding how those frequencies show up in the data. So things like Bayesian, if you actually look at the customer survey results, you'll see a lot of people are saying, hey, straight up, I want to learn Bayesian. So it does, from me looking at it, it seems like it did a pretty good job in helping me pick the right topics to talk about in my upcoming learning labs. All right, good question, Michael. Mohammed Reza asks, the initial data had NLP repeated many times. When data wrangling was conducted, the word was removed. Why did that happen? That's a good question. And I believe this is because a lot of times the most terms that come up very, very frequently can be of lower use than sometimes like the more unique words. So I believe that's why some of these probably got removed. I'd have to dive into the Pycaret algorithm to see exactly why that got removed, but I believe that's the rationale. For our particular analysis, though, that was a bad choice, because what we wanted to do was we wanted to keep all of those most frequent words, because those terms like NLP were really important. So that's why we did the second analysis with Gensim, where we did the tokenization ourselves. Okay, so great question. Ahmed asks, did you try Top2Vec? Why or why not? It seems very good and it uses Gensim and TSNE under the hood. I didn't. I just kind of went with the basic Gensim, the simple preprocessors, and then the Fraser. I felt like that was the right approach for just analyzing the frequencies and really just trying to figure out, what the meat of the content was. So I felt it did a decent job, so I did not move on to any more advanced techniques. But that is something I definitely encourage you to try, Ahmed. And it's definitely, maybe in a future learning lab, we can try some of those techniques. All right, Armando asks, will the recording be available? Yes, in Learning Labs Pro. If you become a member and subscribe to that program, you can definitely get access to all the code that you saw today, the recording, and so on. Matthew asks, what's next for Model Time? Any plans for new features and any thoughts on the roadmap? Well, Time TK, so time series in general, Time TK is what I focused on here recently, and we just added some new features in there. We're going to be talking about TS features, actually, so time series features, and using that inside of Model Time or inside of some of these machine learning algorithms in order to be able to use time series data for predicting things like customer churn and non-time series stuff. So that's going to be next on the roadmap shortly. And then the future, I usually use the GitHub issues to kind of drive what I'm going to work on next, unless I see something that's like super important to jump on. So that's probably what I'll be working on next, is showcasing some of the new value in Time TK. Good question, Matthew. Leo asks, are you going to give us a look at the M6 competition and how your team is doing? So yeah, we haven't really publicized a whole lot yet, but we did form a team for M6. Actually, Justin, the lead data scientist at Northwestern Mutual, he's on the team, and we have several teams. We've actually collaborated with a group out of Singapore, where we're going to be kind of leveraging both their financial knowledge and our machine learning and time series knowledge. So we'll give you guys heads up on how we're doing once we get into March. That's going to be when we start having the submissions for the M6 competition, and hopefully we do well. I'm pretty excited about it. Sammy asks, do you occasionally offer new courses in addition to the 5 course you offer? Are these included in your current offer? Do we have to pay for each new course? So the 5 course is kind of the package. That's the main package that I've had for quite some time. Will there be upgrades in the future? Of course, there will eventually be more upgrades as students need new things in order to kind of take them to that next level. Normally, it's just an upgrade though. So if you have paid already, X amount, you wouldn't have to pay for the whole system again. You just pay the difference, for the new course. So there are some upgrades like that, but honestly, the 5 course R track right now, I mean, that's producing data scientists, senior data scientists, lead data scientists, you name it, directors, managers. It's helping all facets of it. So you're not going to make a bad decision by buying that 5 course R track. In fact, you're going to make a good decision. It's going to be a really, really good decision, because it's going to, that $2,000 investment is going to give you a much bigger payout at the, in just a couple of months when you become a data scientist or senior data scientist or lead data scientist. So ROI on investing in education is insane. It is the single best investment decision you can ever make in your life. That's why people like Warren Buffett say the best investment is an investment in education, an investment in yourself. So you will make an awesome decision if you buy that 5 course R track today. Will the 5 course R track package include the learning labs? No. And the reason I don't include this is the 5 course R track is the system that will help you become a data scientist. Learning Labs Pro is, while it's useful, it's not required to become a data scientist. Learning Labs Pro does help you once you get on the job though. And it also helps you when you're building your interview portfolios of those projects, and you're trying to think of projects to put in your portfolio. That's basically what Learning Labs Pro is 70 plus projects now. So it's really good for that sort of stuff. But is it required to get you a data science job? What's required to get you that job is the R track. What's required to help you continue learning on the job is Learning Labs Pro. So that's why we keep them separate. All right, William Henry, Matt, cover the Learning Lab Pro fees. So there is some fees to Learning Labs Pro. If you guys want to opt into Learning Labs Pro, you're more than welcome. It's an amazing program. This will go into, and I'll put this in the chat. So there's 2 main offers that ways of getting in. There's either the subscription plan. Why isn't this going? There we go. So if we scroll down here, there's either the lifetime membership, which is new. You can now do a lifetime membership, or this is popular too. You can pay monthly, $39 to gain access. The disadvantage there is you keep having to pay monthly. If you're committed to it, you get it lifetime access to all of the labs, all of the future labs and everything. So I just put that into the chat, and you should be able to check that out now. All right. Thanks, William. Thanks for giving me a heads up on that. James asks, is using your data science portfolio package going to require familiarity with Netlify? Is it pretty straightforward? So yes, but I have some instructions. It's fairly straightforward. Netlify for deployment of your data science portfolio. So what he's talking about here is my package portfolio down. So this is something I just put together. It's basically a package to help you produce a portfolio. I kind of cover how to do it in here. So you basically, refresh this. I'll put this link in the chat too. Whoops, paste, copy. If you guys want to check portfolio down out, it's a package I created to make a portfolio. So you're going to make a portfolio. It's pretty straightforward. Honestly, Netlify is, the toughest part is setting up your website. Deployment, you just push to GitHub and then you create a Netlify account and you'll connect it to GitHub. So if you know GitHub, you're probably going to be all right. That'll be the toughest part. So good question there, James. Anonymous asks, you said you would provide the Python cheat sheet. I will, as soon as I'm done answering questions, so stick around. Jeanette asks, the Pycaret package, is this available if I use the Python interface in R? So you can use what's called Reticulate, and you can access Pycaret. Yes, you can. So you can actually access Pycaret through R. I didn't do that on this session, but that would be actually a pretty cool session in a future lab to do. It's actually pretty easy to do. Jeremy asks, if we already bought part 1 of the 5, can we upgrade? Yes, you can absolutely upgrade, Jeremy. That's a great question. And what you've spent on the full offer today is what I will honor, but you have to get in touch with me by Friday. So just email me. I'll put my email in the chat, and dancho@business-science.io. Just email me, Jeremy. I just put my email in the chat, and we'll get you hooked up. All right, and then Adrian asks, in your Python course, you use VS Code throughout? Do you teach the settings and setup? Yep, great question, Adrian. So in my Python course, I teach exactly what we've talked about today with like setting up the environment. In fact, I have about an hour of lessons just on setting up your environment and getting everything right and downloading all the marketplace. So you're going to use VS Code in there, and you're going to have all sorts of extensions that you're going to have to load. And I'm going to teach you how to use them all and get everything set up properly for Python. Okay, so for those that are still with me today, who wants to check out that cheat sheet? You guys ready? All right, let's do it. Let's do it. Okay, so while you guys are all getting enrolled into my programs, let's do the cheat sheet. So I'm going to give you a link. I'm going to copy the link address, and I'm putting it in the chat right now. And you guys need to follow along with me. So just click that link. And what it's going to do is it's going to download this document right here. So this is the Python cheat sheet. And I call it the ultimate cheat sheet for a reason, because it's a cheat sheet that connects to all of the other cheat sheets and everything and all of these packages in here. So it's 2 pages. You can see right here is kind of like your main workflow for most of your stuff. So you're going to be using pandas, NumPy, visualizing with Plotly, maybe modeling with some Pycaret, and then communicating with JupyterLab or Papermill or Dash or Streamlit or some of the API tools. So that's what you get here. And when I click on one of these, so let me just click on Pycaret. What it does is it goes to the Pycaret documentation. So you have immediate access to the things that are most important to you having success. So if I go back here, we can do another one. If I want to do, say, data structures in Python, this literally links to data structures. So this is how you would learn how to do data structures, and you would kind of learn more about pandas. All right. And then on the second sheet, this is where we get into some of those kind of like topical analysis. So if you want to become, a financial person, or if you want to become time series and a time series expert, these are the packages that you'll want to learn. Text analysis, these are some of the packages. APIs, these are the packages. Machine learning. So you can see how it consolidates previously a vast ecosystem of 1,000 packages into a much more manageable set of packages. Okay. All right, guys. So that is the bonus today. One more time, I'm going to put the 5-course bundle in. You can send that. You can click on that here. Yeah, Tufik, if you want to share that cheat sheet, go for it. If you want the Python course, I'm going to link to that right here. And if you want Learning Labs Pro, I'm going to link to that right here. So the key is, where do you want to be in 6 months? If you want to be a data scientist, 5-course art track. If you want to start learning Python today, then take the Python course. And if you want to learn projects and small 1-hour courses like what you saw today, we have 70 of those in Learning Labs Pro. They tend to be more intermediate to advanced. So if you're just learning the basics, I would shy away from LL Pro. But if you're through the basics and you're really interested in projects, then do LL Pro. Is the R course available in Pro? No, they're separate products. Again, RTrack, that is the $2,000 system that took me 3 years to create, and it's the one that gets all the results that you saw today. That is a standalone item. Learning Labs Pro, once you get a job and you want to accelerate in that job, combination of the R track and the LL Pro is what I recommend. Okay, any other questions before we wrap this thing up? And in a couple of weeks, we will have another session on R with machine learning and natural language processing. All right, will you cover data science 5 course and Python in the future? I'm going to do my best. It's going to take probably another 2 years to develop the full program though. Gab asks, up to how long will we access R Pro? So you have unlimited access to that. Jump into it. I will have the video loaded up by tomorrow morning. And you have access to all of the lessons as long as you're a subscriber, or if you join Lifetime, the membership Lifetime program, then you'll have access to it for lifetime. So anything else that I can answer today? All right. Well, thank you guys so much. And I will see you guys in a couple of weeks. All right. Enjoy the rest of your day. And I'll see some of you guys in my R programs and Learning Labs Pro and Python. And until next time, have an awesome time. See ya. Bye.